forget how strong they are. Sometimes they forget how powerful, or not the worst, but something that I would like to emphasize is that they forget that they are leaders. In my experience, I can say that if you come to me in the past telling me, Richard, you're a leader, I will say that, okay, maybe, yeah, I won't try to catch a fight with you, but I will say, okay, I'm a leader, but maybe I'm a weak leader. And that's not exactly true. If we think like that, is because sometimes we lack some knowledge, we lack some of the experience. So we need this kind of platforms to interact and engage and show all leaders how powerful they are. So don't forget it. And like I said, what is a community without leaders? So we're here to expand this beautiful knowledge and this engagement. First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Richard O'Bally, speaker of Evolution of Leadership. And I'm so glad to introduce, and I won't give any spoilers, but I'm going to introduce an amazing, really, clever person that is retired from the Marine Corps. He's also an executive of Master of Business Administration, that he put all his knowledge and all his transitions into the leadership development business. And now he's a consult, and he speaks to make leaders to growth, to make leaders to awake. He makes leaders to raise a benefit for them and an improvement for their lives and also from their communities. So I'm so excited to introduce Alec Landblom tonight.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
think that I mispronounced it. My apologies.
Oh,
Thank
no,
you so
you
much
get it
for
right.
being here with us. Thank you. I'm sorry. How are you?
Good, very good. Thank you for having me along on your journey here. This is it's a very good platform you guys have, and I'm glad to be part of that platform to help you improving leaders to build that greater community.
Thank you so much. We fully appreciate it. And it's like really amazing that you're here to provide your value, your transitions. And let's start it. Let me hear from you. So excited for it. Thank you so much again. I'll leave the mic from you.
All right, so let's see if just like every other time, everyone transitions and puts in their slides. So we're talking about leading under uncertainty. Very much, we're going to define this as making timely decisions for that leader with very limited information, with reasonable confidence and complete ownership of those consequences. Now, those are important words. Why? Because that is what we want for our leaders in the uncertainty. So let me begin with a quick story. So August 22nd, 2005. In the upper right-hand corner, that's me. I was probably 33 years old, weighing 140 pounds at 6 foot. I'm stationed in the middle of Iraq. I'm part of this great organization called the Purple Foxes. The mission of the Purple Foxes was to provide helicopter transportation of the injured, and we call it casualty evacuation. So what this means was during a firefight, during a conflict, during a battle, we would be called upon to come into harm's way to rescue the injured and the wounded and to bring them to the nearest facilities to help treat them. And we only have 1 hour to do this in. Within that 1 hour, it's called golden hour. That golden hour is from time of being wounded to 1 hour, the chances of surviving are at its best. After that, the chances of survival after a gunshot wound or any type of wounded infliction decreases dramatically. So our job was to go into harm's way, get those people out and get them saved. So on that day, the bell rings, and not just the casualty evacuation bell, but the mass cast bell. What that means was there's 20 people injured and they needed our help. Everybody in our squadron sprints out to the aircraft. The pilots, the air crew, the maintainers, and the leaders. We all run out to our helicopters and we get them started up. As we're running out, we don't know anything other than that somebody's hurt. We don't know where they're at. We don't know what type of injuries they have. We don't know if they're still in a firefight. We don't know anything. We are uncertain about the situation we're about to go into. So as we get spun up over the radio, you hear Mercy 3-1. You have the mission. I was Mercy 3-1 that time. I was a brand new aircraft commander. This was my very first mission as an aircraft commander. What does it mean to be an aircraft commander? You're a leader of an air crew of you, a co-pilot, your crew chief on the right gun, who's the senior maintenance guy, the gunner on the left side, and 2 medical assistants, known as corpsmen. As being the most junior aircraft commander, I was responsible for taking these guys in harm's way and to lead the way. Finally, the runners come out with what's called the 9-line. The 9-line is a very important piece of paper. This is the communication from the site where the accident or the incident happened. It tells us where we're going. It tells us how many got injured, how they got injured. Are they, what type of special equipment do they need? Are there bad guys in the area? We need all that information in that 9-line. And in that 9-line, that's only 80% of the total situation itself. When they handed me the piece of paper, there was only 2 lines filled out. This lat and long on the GPS grid and how many people were injured. Next thing I know, the commanding officer of the squadron comes up. Eric, can you handle this? This is your first mission. Can you handle this? I could handle it, and here's why. We trained to this. He flew with me to make sure that I was ready for this. I made the preparations. I talked to my people. First thing we said, we don't know what's going on, but this is what we're going to do. We talked it out. We worked it out. So when I explained to him what my process was and what we've done so far, he came back with, giddy up, go save them. From there, my good friend Mike, who's on the controls, he's my co-pilot. He's also the guy that gives boost of confidence, having that guy right beside you in the aircraft with everyone in the back. And that first follower is your second leader, because he's not going to argue with you. He's going to go, yes. And he's going to help you lead as well. So we take off, and he goes to the direction on which the GPS coordinates plug in. Now, back then, GPS didn't have a moving map. It was a big old compass with triangles and an arrow. So all we knew was follow the arrow. We followed the arrow, and it led as he turned the aircraft and going straight towards what we saw was a big smoking plume, and that was where the people were injured at. It was my job to get us into that plume of smoke and dust. As we're flying there, my crew chiefs are in back, and they're behind machine guns, and they're looking down at the ground, watching the locals racing for their vehicles. Because when they race for their vehicles, they're pulling out machine guns. So attached to me is a Cobra gunship. Cobra gunship is my protection. He protects me. He's not part of my squadron. So I reach out to him. We make an agreement of what needs to happen so we can be successful as a team. His squadron and my squadron came together to be able to save these 20 people. So what does he do? What I asked him to do is to go forward, scare away the threats, neutralize the area, allow me safety to come in with my helicopter to pick up the wounded. He goes forward. He tells me everything's safe, go on in. We fly in, Mike is looking through the dust. He's looking through the smoke. He's trying to find a way to pick his way into the landing zone. But it's hard to find because there's trees, there's dust, and there's power lines. Between the 6 of us, we all talk it out. We all figure it out, where we're going, how we're getting in there, and what needs to happen. We get into the zone, things calm down, and then all of a sudden, people start running to the air helicopter. Why? Because our legacy. Our legacy is about saving people. They know when they see that helicopter, they see that Purple Fox helicopter, they have a chance to survive. Their buddies are going to live. Because what had happened when we got into the site was a convoy got hit by an improvised explosive device. And they were taking gunshots after the explosion went off. It was upon our arrival with the gunship that scared away the bad guys and gave them hope, which gave our people hope because we were going into a situation that we didn't know was dangerous or not. We were able to take the wounded and the protection, be able to take off and go to the nearest hospital and get those guys safely to a treatment center. And from there, from last I known, all 20 of those people survived their gunshot wounds. So the question is, how did we get there? How were we successful? You know, so what we've done up front, and this is what hallmark I think of when you think of Marines, you know, sitting, you know, not sitting, but being back in the States, they train. They're always training. Why are we always training? Because we have to set up a process for us to be successful in the battlefield. Like we said, there was only 20% of the information we had to go in there to be successful to save those 20 people. But that didn't happen at that moment. That happened 6 months, a year ahead, in which we trained. We created standard operating procedures. We trained to those operating procedures. We had total buy-in. We're no kidding. The young Lance Corporal, the guy at the bottom, he had a thing to say, and we gave him a voice to say it and say, "Sir, that doesn't work for me. That would be near impossible for us to do that." And we had to take that in consideration and readjust from that. So, and then after the total buy-in, you have to reflect. You have to, we call it the debrief, because that's where all the learning happens. When you practice it and you fail, and you practice it and you fail. But guess what? You learned from it. You didn't fail in the battlefield, you failed on training so that you didn't have to fail in the battlefield. And so that's what was important about that. That's how we got there. But we talk about the role of the leader. So we provided hope. Not only was I providing hope to my aircrew who knew nothing about the mission, but I provided hope to my commanding officer, the guy in charge of me, the ultimately responsible for me going out to harm's way. I gave him hope that he knew could trust me to do the job. I inspired others to go into harm's way to go save those people. I provided guidance to my friend Mike as he's flying our helicopter into a dangerous situation with power lines and dust and smoke and potential gunfire. We created an environment for the organization to succeed by having that total buy-in, by listening into the back where the crew chief's in the back saying, "Hey, sir, we got a threat, we got a potential threat on our left side," and be able to adjust to that. And then we collaborated with other leaders. The other aircraft commander of that Cobra gunship, he was the other leader. I could talk to him. We could come together as two separate communities and be able to provide one bigger team to save those 20 people. So we're going to break this up into how you deal with uncertainty, the 3 phases. First is during preemptive times, when times are calm, when you're not in it, when things are a little bit more certain, where things have more gravity to be safe. And then we're going to talk about during the time of the uncertainties. And then third, we're going to talk about the post events. So in the preparation, you have to have a planning process. You don't have to have I'm not saying have a plan, I'm saying have a planning process. Why? Because your plans are only as good as the situation you're in. But having a good, thorough planning process pays dividends. You'll hear me speak about Dwight D. Eisenhower says, he thinks plans are useless, but planning is indispensable. And there's a reason for that. We can create all these contingency plans and what if it, but at the same time, it does us no good when the uncertainty really hits, because the what ifs are assumptions. Now we have to deal with facts. Then you have to train your people in the decision making, because you're not going to have one person be able to make every decision and call it, with a flat hierarchy and say, "Oh yeah, we'll just rely on the boss here to make all the decisions and we're just going to run with everything." It does not work. By being able to lay out who and what level can make those decisions and train them to make those decisions and do it regularly. Every quarter, you have to train in the decision making. That way, when those what if situations do happen, or when uncertainty does happen, they're successful and they feel confidence and they are trusted to make those decisions because we trained to it. Now, I talked about plans being useless, but you still have to start from somewhere. So having a contingency plan starts the situation off. They're nothing but assumptions, but they are the backbone for everything to adjust as you go through the situation. In companies, they have what's called business continuity and disaster relief plans. What they are rings of defense. So if they lose certain morale, they lose 25% of last 3 years revenue average, they pull out the book and they look at their options. Why? Because it's easier to plan it when it's calm than when you're emotionally involved going, what do we do next? So those are how you use contingency plans. Like I said, plans are useless, but planning is indispensable. You can never be good enough at planning the process itself. Here's my steps of how I do planning processes in uncertainty. And I'm going to break this out for you as we go down, but this is just a general overview of a 6-step process. Okay. So the first step is determining the goal. Now, it's easy to say our goal's this, has always been this, but during times of uncertainty, something happened. Something knocked you off your route. Something knocked you off your horse. And now you have to determine what is that challenge that is keeping you from continuing on the original goal, because that is now your new goal. And so once you determine what the impression of the mess is, then you can determine what is your goal. All right, sometimes it's dictated, sometimes it's a great opportunity to find a new direction or take your organization to a new direction. So once you determine what your challenge is and you created a goal to that challenge, then you bring your leadership team together. And in that leadership team, you really have to talk these 3 things out. What is known, what is unknown, and what is assumed. Those 3 things have to be defined. And you cannot have anything mixed, because by talking it out with your leadership team, it helps you understand the things that you think are facts probably are assumptions. And then you can move those ideas down to the assumptions. And then you create your list of questions or things you need to identify and have. That will lead us to step 3. Step 3 leads us to gathering the information. Because we need to confirm, did I know that what we said is fact? Is fact? We know where the reference is. We can find the reference. What about things we don't know? Who can help us? Can we learn from them? Will they work with us? Is the information credible? How recent is the information? You know, the maps we were using in Iraq were from 1983. How useful is a 1983 map going in 2005? Step 4, publish the plan. That means write it out. Use graphs, organizational charts, show every member where they fit in the process. How do they contribute? And make sure they understand that's you. You are contributing to this goal. I had that when I first took over as the aircraft maintenance officer of the Purple Foxes. I had a big old whiteboard and I put down everyone's, by job on a whiteboard and go, this is how we're going to succeed. And this is how you are going to do that. And people were in my office staring going, that's me. That's how I'm going to do it. And they would come back and go, where am I again? Okay. And so those things became important. Now sharing the information with the entire organization. First, you got to, everyone answers to somebody. So that means you're answering to your bosses. You need to give them their buy-in. You need to let them know, this is the situation. This is how we assume that we're going to deal with the situation. These are the challenges that we think we're going to face here, and this is how we're going to take it. We envision that we're going to have a small dip, and then we're going to springboard up. And you are always honest with them. Hey, if something does not go this way, I'm going to come back to you. I'm going to tell you what changed, what was in the situation that we did not see, and bring you back up to date. You're not being brought into the board of directors to be yelled at. You're being brought into the board of directors to show that you understood that there was a challenge that was unforeseen and you had to address it and overcome it. And that is a beautiful thing for people building confidence to their leaders. Because then you're going to turn it around and you're going to tell your people, here's our goal. Here's how we're going to do it. And we're going to do an awesome job because you're going to know everything I have. And you're going to tell me, hey, this is not working. This is not correct. We need to change this. And you're going to list it and you're going to implement it. And then step 6, you're going to actively monitor the progression. You're going to use data. You're going to use progress reports. You're going to challenge your people and have them bring that information up to you. And then you're going to refine what they tell you. When they say, hey, our factory's not able to do this, find out why. And then figure out how you can help them. And then rewrite it and refine it so that they understand that we can still hit this goal, but we're not gonna, we're not gonna overwhelm the whole working class with it. Refine the planning and the document accordingly as well. All right, so some considerations during the time. Let the situation develop. This is a double-edged sword. It works two ways. One, sometimes you just gotta let things fall into place. Two, sometimes you just gotta poke at it and make it move. So don't be afraid to do those things as well. A leader checks on his or her people. This is very important. During times of uncertainty, people tend to freak out. And what I mean by freaking out, I mean, there's a process that I call SARA. And it's an acronym. SARA stands for shock, anger, resistance, and acceptance. And it goes like this. What? How could this happen? We're not doing that. Okay, fine, we'll do it. That's how fast you can go through SARA. The faster you get through through SARA, the faster you're able to overcome your initial shock and get back into achieving your goals. So if you understand that, you understand your people's ability to go through that process, you're going to be spectacular. Always remember though, your interest and your concerns for your people have to be individualized and they have to be genuine. And you have to go back. You don't ask it once and walk away. You ask it, you take note of it, and a few days later you go back and you say, hey, how did that happen? How was that going? And let them know that you really were paying attention. You have to reiterate the organization's vision, mission statement, and core values. Trust me, I've been in a situation where my aircraft was down in the middle of the desert, and the only thing that carried us through that terrible time was the fact that we went to our core values of honor, courage, commitment. Okay, also the playbook is wide open. You have the opportunity. Sometimes these uncertainties create time of opportunity to increase your ability. But it has to be things that are within your control, that you can control legally. I mean, the difference between the US Revolution, the French Revolution, is a matter of George Washington saying we will be an organized army and we will fight within the laws of war, versus the French, who ended up being nothing but a bunch of guerrilla warfares and giving us Napoleon. Ego control. It is not about you as the leader, it's about the legacy of the organization. That is the most important thing a leader needs to take away. He needs to understand that it's not about him. It's about his people, and it's about the mission, and it's about overcoming these challenges. Okay, final phase is the post-event phase. Reflect and debrief. This is where you learn everything. This is where you learn everything. We sit down and go, what did we learn from this? And you gotta make sure you document that. All right, closing this up with a quick story. 2 years later, on December 4th, 2006, I was in Iraq again. This time I'm in a senior position. This time I'm doing I'm a lot more qualified, and I get a lot more people to be in charge of. I get a phone call, or I get an email to say call home. My wife Wendy informs me that she's diagnosed with breast cancer, stage 4. We get home 2 months later. I get home, finished up the mission. A lot of other things happened. We lost some friends to a surface air missile. But in that time, we were able to, during the preemptive stuff, plan, know my role as a leader, give her hope, give her encouragement, give her guidance. We were able to create plans of how we're going to spend the rest of our time together. We took steps to be before how we're going to go into it. We took steps of what happens when eventually it happens. And then we talked about what is it that we don't know? What is it we need to learn? And what is it that we just need to ignore and just enjoy life? She did awesome. She lived for another 4 years. I lost Wendy on March 13th, 2011. It'll be 10 years this March. But because of those uncertainties, we were able to implement this plan and to be able to be successful with this plan. I thank you for your time. My name is Eric Landblom. This is where you can find me as leadership developed. Thank you for your attention.
That was just amazing. I fully appreciate all what you say. That was really great. So now is the time in which we're gonna transition into Q&A session. But just before that, I have a really exciting announcement in which we're gonna launch our first chapter at Dominguez Hills. So we're gonna have a launch party on January 19, 7:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. So this launch party, it will be like for the student organization that is on campus, once again, Dominguez Hills, that is focused on bringing leadership development, resources, and opportunities to students. So your involvement is crucial to allow this chapter to leave a legacy on not just leaders, in a legacy into leadership. And the students that are going to be part of this chapter, they're going to be earning high valuable skills, networking, conflict resolution, and recruitment training. So once again, the launch party will be on Zoom, January 19, 7:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. So hopefully you guys can attend. And the ones that are thinking to transfer to Dominguez Hills, you guys are more than welcome. And you guys are going to have available this new chapter for you guys. All right. So let's start the Q&A session. And I encourage every single of you to, put your cameras on, engage with us, and it is no wrong questions. It is no wrong comments. Let's get it. Do not come at once, as our CEO says, Angel Roman. Any questions?
I will start it off. I'll start
Alrighty.
it. So, Eric, I would like to ask you, what are some habits that you do every day to improve your leadership and personal development?
First, I found a great gift from the local library called Libby. It's an audio book from the library system in which so I'm a terrible reader. I mean, I do have books all around me, but at the same time, it's easier to be on a computer and having an audio book and just listening to the various types of leaders and thought leaders. Because it's not just I gravitate to the doers, but I need the philosophers as well. The philosophers are great. I love my Simon Sinek's. I I I wrestle with Malcolm Gladwell. I love his research, but I hate his conclusions, and I love these different people that bring out different ideas and they make me uh, reevaluate what I thought I knew and what I did. In which I think the greatest of those habits also is the ability to just be quiet and listen. Um, I'm known in the Marine Corps for being loud, forceful. I fight for my people. My people will be taken care of. And I'll be darned if anybody will ever step on my unit or on my people because I'm there to protect them. And what I failed to learn at that time that I learned now was maybe I just need to hear them out and be able to go back and rephrase in terms that me and my people know to allow us to know that reaching out to hit uh, that favor, that goal that was being asked for. So I think the audiobooks has been great. I'm going to tell you a second thing that I do that helps taking on challenges: puzzles, crossword puzzles, Sudoku puzzles. Your mind needs to think in different directions. And it's very important that you're not always entangled into the words of reading or into writing and philosophies. You need to have in a different way for your mind to work. And so I loved this thing called cross sums in which I learned to think in different directions. How many different possibilities does, a four number sequence gives me a sum? There's and then when you think in those terms, you start finding the answers, and then you start finding answers for when you start have to deal with real situations. And I had most of my project managers do that. When I was in my last tour in Japan, I was like, look, I asked you to do a Sudoku puzzle a day or a crossword puzzle a day. I need you to create have the ability to create. And those were the ways that we were able to solve some of these difficult challenges, especially in the international community. Does that answer your question, Manuel?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Amazing.
I have a
And
question.
Yes.
Okay, so Eric, when you did mention how there is value to handling things before they get too hectic and your emotions kick in.
Mhm.
I can only assume that I mean I'm pretty sure that that just goes around with every situation. When when is it because I know that it's kind of like I would say borderline like a thrill to have something where it's like, oh my God, like I'm on my toes. But what is the subtle difference between both situations, and how do you grow by preventing the event of, oh dang, we really messed up. Now we have to like push hard to correct something.
So the culmination point, or point of no return, is what we refer to it as. That's why every day in our community, in the casualty evacuation community, you're documenting everything and you're rising, right? And at certain points, let's say I flew, the limit is 100 flight hours in a month. At that time, you are then evaluated, because I'm a rush junkie. Yes, I'll admit that. But when I was younger, I loved the rush of going out there and being in the challenging of things, and having, keep my adrenaline up. But you were evaluated not only by the medical people, but your leaders as well. I had my commanding officers that I had in those tours in Iraq were very good about taking that time to talk to you, not just to say, no, that's to give you a time, but they're also evaluating how you are. Um, it's hard when you're in it. When you're in it, you really have to be, I mean, the great leaders are the ones that are smart enough to pull themselves out, evaluate themselves, and say, maybe I've gone too far. Maybe we're going to take it easy. And that's how, the great ones do it. I, I learned from a month where I was just in it consistently. It got to a point where my commanding officer came up to me and was like, "Do you need to sit down? Do you need to sit on the bench?" I was like, "I didn't do anything wrong." He goes, "I know, but you've been in it so much that you're getting angry at people not keeping up with you, and that's not fair to them." And so that was a wake up of, I need to be more self aware. I need to be paying attention to how I come off when I'm caught up in the moment. And so those are the two ways you can do it. And you should always have redundancy in those checks, yourself and a confidant to help pull you back. Fortunately, right now, I have Elise in my life. She's a fellow widower with me. We got married, and she keeps me from getting very carried away in this leadership development, because it can be, tell you what, it can be telling a lot of war stories and a lot of ego feeding, and it will take away from what I'm trying to do. And that's how you do that. Does that answer your question?
It's such a thick, topic, but it gives me kind of a more insight to it. If I could have like a small follow-up question,
Yeah.
I'll probably ask it later just because I have to remember it. But yeah, I'll definitely dive deeper into it.
Okay.
Amazing. Any other questions? I think that Bridget has one.
Is one in the chat?
Yeah, she typed it. Says, what got you interested or inspired to become a leader? Also, what was it a thing you constantly struggled with as you were evolving as a leader?
So I grew up in North Dakota, where my dad was a civic leader, and his dad, my grandfather, was a very charismatic man. And I thought that with their talents and what they were able to do to have people seek them out, look to them, look up to them, show them that respect of a leader, I thought that was going to come naturally. That's just, you're born with it. You see it 2 generations ahead of you. I was so wrong. I was terribly wrong. So when I left college to join the Marine Corps, I was 23 years old, and I didn't go become an officer. I went to, no kidding, the low side. I went, no kidding, I was a private first class. I went into the infantry, and I thought, I'm 23 years old. Everyone else is 17 or 18 years old. I'm in charge. I got it figured out. I was dead wrong. I knew the stuff. I knew all the stuff tactically. I could do all the tactics better than anybody, but my leadership skills did not exist. I was terrible. Um, it took me 4 years, those 4 years in the infantry, in which after that rude awakening of me learning what leadership really was. Leadership, leadership was for me at the time confused with what management was. And so I had to change the way I think. I had to change the way that I interacted with people. And this whole giving orders thing that you see in the movies, that does not exist in the military. You have to win them over. You have to have their buy-in. You have to have their trust. And so what you see in the, you think you see when a military officer is giving orders, that's from years of trust building, and that's from years of them working out the details, going, if this happens, we're doing this. And then usually it's a silence is consent. When when the senior guy says, hey, we're going to do it this way, that means they probably talked about it for years and say, yeah, there's no argument, we're going to do it this way, and they don't do it. But so the constant struggle, though, is balancing what it is to be a leader, but also how to be in charge, because you're still ultimately responsible for the consequences of what your unit or your organization does or does not accomplish. And so sometimes there's tough love days. Some days as you're trying to mentor your leadership challenges, we call them, you can only, there's only so much you can do for them before your attention is taken away from the rest of the group. Because the biggest thing that we've seen is when that 2% troublesome people in your unit that needs all that attention takes away from the attention that the people that are doing it right deserve. And you have to give them their due respect as well. Because if you don't give them their time, they're going to find somebody else to follow. And you're going to go, where's my people? Well, you're too busy dealing with so-and-so that you forgot the rest of us. So you have to pay attention to what you do to mentor, and when you mentor them up, you document it, you give them goals, and if they don't meet those criteria in that timeline, reasonable timeline, intelligent timeline, and you document it, you protect yourself with the laws, and you protect yourself as a leader, and you protect yourself with your people, because you gave everything, you've written it out, and you gave them a chance, and you just said, it is not working. And you go and you move forward. And those are tough calls. And you're not a jerk because you had to lose somebody. Sometimes you lose a great one. And here's an example about that. A great one would be like, I don't have a position for this guy who's just good. He's so good. He's up and rising. He's ready to take my job, but I don't have a position for him. But then another organization, another company offers him something greater. You know what? I would love to keep you, but that doesn't do you any good. I need to look out for you. And this will help you, not immediately. You don't understand. You think that, oh God, I'm gonna lose this guy. No, you're not. He's gonna go to that other organization and he's gonna come back to you. Why? Because you already won his trust. You help him grow. You gave him the opportunity. You were his reference to help him get that greater job. And now you increased your reach. It's no longer within your organization. Now your reach is now in another organization. And another one, because you have these I don't want to call them proteges, but the people that you developed, you've invested in, and they didn't, just because you couldn't give them a position of greater responsibility in your organization, doesn't mean that they don't want to come to you for mentorship, friendship, leadership. They will. They'll always come back. I still get phone calls from Marines that I used to serve with going, hey, sir, I'm going for this job. Can you give me a reference? I'd be delighted to. Why? Because I know what we went through. I know how I taught you, and I know I couldn't give you a place of responsibility greater than what we had, but these people could, and you were able to grow into it, and I was able to let you go. So don't be afraid to let those people go if it means something that grows for them. So yes, and you are creating a network. It's very important. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I believe it does answer her question.
Okay.
It looks like her mic is muted. She said thank you.
Thank you.
I actually had a question.
Yeah.
For during your service, either in the military or when you were in that position of being a leader, did you ever have that doubt or uncertainty running through your mind, and how did you deal with that?
It's always running in my mind. It's I am my own worst critic. If you ever, I don't know, if you follow me on Instagram, or if you and you'll see that I write some articles. I am my own worst critic, and I write so many articles about how I criticize myself. I doubt so much, and in that doubt creates a method to a madness in which I'm able to rise to the occasion when I need to. It's weird. Like like right now, things are calm, right? But if somebody was to break into my house, some reason I can just break into action, find my wife, move us to a place of protection, and not think about it and not worry about it because I know it just naturally happens, right? But the doubt usually comes when you have the time to think about it and allow that doubt. I want to say embrace it, but here's the only reason why I'm saying embrace it, because it's going to have you ask questions, and it's going to make you create a path. I used to doubt, am I going to be good at being a leadership speaker? And the reason why is I only got so far in the Marine Corps. I got friends who did great, who are still in there moving up. But that's promotion isn't because of leadership, where I took the time to doubt myself, to ask the questions. What did I do wrong? I didn't do anything wrong in my leadership. I did everything wrong in my management or in my confidence or in my things like that. But my leadership and my ability to reflect, to write to, and to understand, that's what the doubt allowed me to do. It allowed me to understand what I did right and what I did wrong, and how do I teach people that they too can have those feelings and be great.
Thank you. That oh yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Bert. You can talk to him. Don't worry. I was just saying that was great. That was really amazing.
But for example, getting into that position in the Marine Corps, did you feel like you were never enough for that position?
Yeah. Okay. So trust me, because going from the infantry into aviation to be a pilot, I have, my degree is in theater. I'm a theater, I went to college for theater and dropped out. I'm competing to be a helicopter pilot with people that have degrees in physics, engineering, aerospace, and I'm competing with these people. But at the same time, we say, because there's only so many positions, but at the same time, our competition's friendly. We work with each other. We challenge each other to be better, but they're not afraid to help me out, and I'm not afraid to help them out, because they knew the engineering side of things and I knew the tactical side of things, and we were able to raise each other up. So yeah, and then every time you're giving your new assignment, you're going to doubt, going, do I deserve to be here? I remember when I first took over the aircraft maintenance officer job. I mean, a job I wanted all my career, to go back to the Purple Foxes and be in charge of those aircraft and those people. And I sat in that office going, okay, I'm here, now what? And that was the time where I was like, okay, that's not the way, I got to change my thinking. Because it's no longer you've arrived mentality, is now what's the next goal mentality. Think about going for a jog, sorry, I'm a runner, so I like running, but think about going for a jog. I'm going for one lap. Okay, that wasn't bad. Going for another lap. That wasn't bad. I'm not counting, I gotta make all 4 laps. No, I'm thinking, can I make another one? Can I make another one? Can I make another one? If you think of your goals like that, that will help release the doubt that you can accomplish it. For me, and with trying to figure out if I'm a good pilot or a leader of pilots, it was, okay, what's my next goal to allow me to get there? Because, and it goes back to define the mess, define what is the challenge. So if you don't know what the challenge is, how do you know what the goals are? So I hope that helps.
It helps a lot. It helps a lot to understanding. Thank you.
Yeah.
Great, amazing. Anyone else? Nope. Well,
I will go with nobody's going.
No, well, I'm gonna make one, and hopefully my question is not gonna be the last one. So this is not personal one, and actually I'm gonna ask you about a fear. You actually don't have to mention what was your fear, but at the moment that you were in the in the corps, I'm pretty sure you have some type of fear. You can try to remember it. If so, how do you overcome that fear? You feel me? How do you overcome it? And how do you gain, this leadership perspective, this braveness to continue moving on during those circumstances, those times?
So fear, you have to admit to yourself that you have fear. First thing, you have to admit, yes, I'm scared. Trust me, first day in Iraq on my second, that same tour we talked about, that we introduced the first day I was there, 3 rockets came shooting right over our heads. And everyone dispersed to go find protection, all that stuff. And people were like, where the heck were you? We thought you went to go find the guys and go, beat them up. I'm like, no, I'm like you. I was looking for protection. We were in a dangerous situation. But then because of the training, because of what you do up front, the way you ask the questions, if this happens, how do I handle it? My biggest fear, I'll tell you, is what happened. What in my mind was what would happen to me after Wendy died. Let's go back to my late wife. I didn't know what my future would hold. I remember how upset Wendy was, thinking that she was upset that her cancer was taking me away from my career. And I told her many times, no, it wasn't. I was willing to give up the Marine Corps for her. And thankfully, the Marine Corps helped us out, so we didn't have to. But my fear was, how do I, when he's got stage 4 cancer, I'm eventually going to lose her. What next? What do I do next? We shared the fear together. We voiced it together, and then we found, we planned things out. What was important? What was prioritized for us? Quality of life. All right, let's enjoy this time together. What's quality of life? Okay. When does treatment need to get serious? Okay, she wants to get serious about treatment this time now. Okay, how are we doing? How, interacting with each other? You still have fear. So after I lost Wendy, you have that loneliness with fear. Now you have to really admit to yourself. You don't want to talk to people, but at the same time, you need to find somebody to talk to. You need some shared experience, somebody that shares that's experience with you. You're not the only person that goes through these certain things. I mean, 7 billion people, lots of statistics tells you somebody else went through something like this before. Thankfully for me, Elise just reached out and shared her story with me. We created a bond of support. We expressed our fears about dating again. We were 37, 38 years old. God, we got to date again? Ugh, I hate dating. Now we got social media and dating? Ugh. So, we expressed those fears. And then those support became friendship. And then that friendship became our marriage. We called it a merger at first, but we're married. We've brought 4 households into 1 household. And now we share our experiences with other people to let them know that they're not alone. And so when you deal with the fears and you admit to the fears and you overcome the fears with knowledge, overcome the fears with network and relationships, and you overcome the fears with trust, because we can live in fear all day long, and we do. I mean, we see it every day. You hear your friends, they watch the news, they get themselves scared when they watch the news. I don't care which news you're watching, it's scaring you, it scares me. But when we reach out to each other and we have communities like this that talk to each other, I'm no longer scared. I no longer have a fear. I have like-minded people with me that want to unite, that want to find solutions, that want to be together. And that's how we overcome the fear, is by being a team that wants to do better together. All of our priorities of ideas, yes, we're gonna have our differences, but you know what? Our differences is because we want the same thing, but our differences is we just prioritize how we get there. Nothing wrong, but as long as we have the same goal, we are friends, we are united, and we will build a greater community.
That was deep, a little speechless, but the only thing that I can say is I'm really thankful. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And like I said, hopefully that was not my last question. You're a really, bright person. So hopefully anyone else can ask any type of question, because this is the best time to do it. Like we don't have these type of opportunities every single day. So I encourage everyone. Thank you, Mr. Eric. Thank you. I appreciate it a lot.
Yes, thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I have a question actually.
Mhm.
Hi, sorry, Evelyn. So I actually have three.
Mhm.
And the first one is, how do you keep people motivated in a group as a leader?
Okay.
The second one, oh, do you just want to go one by one? We can do that, or
Oh, okay. So yeah, so keeping people motivated is is going back to their vision, is getting them to go back to their dream. I can tell you many times that I tell this to my Marines who are, they're tired, they're mad, they want to get out, they just done with the Marine Corps, and I just ask them, okay, so what was the original dream that brought you back to being a Marine? And they talk about, I thought, serving my country, fighting terrorism, being part of a larger community. I didn't really have a family, but I have a family now. And now you just reached into their soul again. And by doing that, you brought more motivation into it. Second way of getting their motivation that I love doing is, especially with young people who are doing things that I don't know, teach me how to do your job. You'd be surprised. You're like, especially, as a lead, your leader comes down to you, it's like, look, I don't know, I fly the aircraft, you fix the aircraft. How do you do that? Well, I do this, I do that. No, show me, teach me. I'm going to be your student. I'm going to hold the tools for you. Do you need this? You need, it's that becomes that servant leader, and that motivates them, because now they're going to tell their friends, and then their friends are going to be like, hey, sir, we're going to go fix this transmission. You want to come out? Yeah, I want to get out of the office. I want to see how things happen. I want to see my guys, because they're motivated, because they found motivation, they found hope. So that's how those are the two ways I use motivation.
that's great. Thank you. It's very helpful.
Okay.
I didn't even think of any of that actually. Super good stuff. The second question I have here also is, how can you persuade the deviant in a group? So the person that goes against everything that you want to push forward and move forward
Okay,
with.
so I'm a natural ENTP who is the debater. If you in the Myers-Briggs, I am the debater. So I am the master of that stuff. And so by taking on by bringing that person in and getting him or her buy-in is the most important thing you can do with a deviant like that. They just want to be part of the solution. They want to be part of the whole situation. And they want to be decision makers too. And they're trying to do it to get your attention. I do it to get people to think of different ways. I also do it, because that's the way I think. I think of, how can I break this? Why? Because that's what will eventually happen. And if we don't figure out how to get past that, then we have to. So give them buy-in. I can tell you that my chief, my maintenance chief, my number 2 that works for me, he had this one Marine that was just a troublemaker for him. It was just irritating. And all he wanted to do was just, can I fire him, sir? I'm like, no, watch. I'm going to show you something. I'm going to, not that I was going to show him something. It's like, I know this guy. I know what he wants. And all I had to do is let him come to a meeting. Hey, I want you to come to this meeting. And I remember Master Guns was looking at me going, oh, come on, sir, really? I'm like, yes, I want him to sit in this meeting. And then I looked at him. What do you think we should do? And he was like, you want my honest opinion? I'm like, yeah, I want your honest opinion. I'm asking you. I wouldn't bring you in here and just waste your time. You have something to say. Let me and my boss hear what you have to say. He shrugged. He said it. That guy became my most loyal night shift chief I've ever had. My Master Guns was like going, I don't know how you did it, but he's doing anything. He'll do anything for you if you ever asked him, sir. I'm like, that's because we gave him the chance to be part of the system. That's all they want. They just want to be part of the system. They didn't want to be part of the system. Why would they even show up for work? So, and then you had a third question.
Yes. Also, the third question is like, how does one inspire, persuade people in a group to adapt a plan, which is kind of similar to what we just kind of discussed, I guess.
Yeah, and yeah, as long, that's where that's, when we talked in step 5, telling the people how, entire people how things are going to happen. But you have to also let them, digest it. You have to let them tell you their concerns of how that, impacts them, how that impacts their teams. I can tell you that I remember when we went from being that helicopter squadron to an Osprey squadron, I was trying to lay down a rule in which I didn't want any aircraft broken longer than 60 days. If that aircraft wasn't fixed, within 60 days, we're going to tear apart another one to build it back up. So we kept them. And I did not know this until somebody pulled me aside. It's like, sir, you know how many man hours that takes? And I was like, oh, why didn't you say, why didn't anybody tell me this? Because they couldn't digest what I was trying to do. So I hope that answers that question.
I also think that it's like, it's very interesting that you bring that up, because I've kind of seen it in a group where it's like, this is the authority, right? This is the leader in the group. So why go against it? Also, it's kind of like, I'm afraid to speak up and say like, hey, I think we should do this, or hey, if this can't be done, I know you want a quota to be met, but it's kind of like unrealistic. And sometimes the people, I guess the common people in the group, right, are just kind of afraid to speak up and say something.
Well, that's where a good leader should be able to look at who hasn't been speaking much and saying, I need what are your thoughts, Evelyn? What are your concerns? Because I know that in that quietness, there's a lot of things going on in your, behind the eyes that are telling me that you're worried about something detrimental to what's going to impact you, your team, your people, correct? And so if they're not doing that, that's what you as a leader need to be doing. You need to be paying attention to who's got a lot of thoughts going on in their mind, but they can't speak up about it. You pay attention to those people. Those are your most important people. I had a person that he would not tell me anything but yes, sir. I'm like, you're an E7, you're high in the food chain, you're a big decision maker of mine, but you have yet to express any opinions to me. I will not, you kept telling me, you'll never get an opinion from me, sir. You'll never get an opinion from me. I took non-standard, non-traditional, not that I want to advertise this, but I took all those guys to the bar and had them a few drinks, got them loosened up, and I learned a lot. And I wrote it down in a book, and I never held it against them, but I learned what I needed to learn because, they want to be straight and narrow, respectful, and all that other stuff, but I needed the information. The only way I was going to get the information was finding different ways to do it. I am not advocating getting somebody drunk to talk. I am not advocating. It's just that's how it worked. Guys, I'm sorry that I did not mean to persuade something that I'm not going to advocate for.
No, I completely understand though. It's just kind of placing someone in a whole different situation where they feel comfortable and where they're able to be more open, and then that way they're able to express themselves more freely, I guess. And instead of a work-like environment where it's more like, okay, this is my duty and this is what I'm here to do, and that's it.
Right. So, and that's where you also got to personalize. I mean, big thing that I had success with in the team, my leadership teams, the people that became part of my leadership teams were because they knew how to separate work from personal. Because the most important thing that I needed them was, when it was work, we talked about work and we got things done. But when I needed them to be personable, it's for me, it's for them, it's for the team. And we were able to build trust with that. If I didn't know that somebody was struggling because their kid was autistic, or they're a single parent that had to go pick up their kid at 4 p.m. and to take him to, McDonald's, because that's the only time he got to put dinner together for him. As a leader, you learn those things, and you learn that those have value, and having that interpersonal communication, have that interpersonal relationship has value. It's very important. It's very beautiful.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, Eric.
Awesome. So just to conclude, We will be having a launch party this 19th. I'm sorry, I accidentally put 8:30 to 9:30. It's actually 7:30 to 8:30. Here is the link in the chat. Just click it. And I want to give a great big thank you to Eric for being here today. Definitely learned so much. Eric, is there anything you'd like to say to close everything?
No, I appreciate this. If anything, I hope, I got all this learning what, how you guys perceive things and how you view leadership teaches me a lot more about how I go about being a provider of information. And I appreciate what you guys have as a platform here to create better leaders, to create greater communities. You guys, I think, are doing a wonderful job, and I'm glad to be part of your journey.
Awesome. And is there a LinkedIn that we can, or any other way we could reach you?
I've been pretty busy on Instagram because I want to be that Gen Xer that figured out the millennials' secret weapon. Sorry. So I'm on leadership_developed. That's my Instagram. And then my LinkedIn is just Eric Landblom. I'm the only one in the whole, well, I'm not the only Landblom in the whole world, but we're very few. So you'll be able to find my bald head on there. And
you said leadership_developed?
yes.
Developed like that?
Yes, that's correct.
Perfect.
And that'll be on my Instagram. And then my Instagram bio will have all my free link to everything else, to my websites, my LinkedIn, my YouTube, my blog. So you can find everything that I'm trying to post together and advertise, where I'm speaking next, what venues I'm creating for, for people to come in and watch. So please keep track. And plus, I don't try to quote other people as much. So on my Instagram, I try to give my bits of wisdom that hopefully don't offend people, but at the same time, some tough reality goes a long ways.
Awesome.
Amazing.
Okay, well, I'll definitely give a follow. And yeah, thank you all for coming. I hope you have a great night.
Unfortunately, this is the saddest part of the day. We're gonna end it up. We usually end up officially at 8. So our apologies for the people that were waiting 3 minutes a little late, but just in case, I will be really glad to continue the whole night, but unfortunately, yeah, this is the saddest part of the day, the end. So thank you all my leaders to be present in here, and hope to see you guys in the launch party. Remember, January 19, 7:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. And see you, of course, the next Thursday event. Have an amazing one. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you,
Bye.
Eric. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Mr. Eric, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.